Hi you guys, this is Rachel here, the Modern Shaman. Thanks for being with me for another YouTube Q&A video of the week. If you're new to this channel, I always suggest that you visit my website. It's themodernshaman.net, and there's a lot of resources there for you. I still love giving one-on-one sessions. It's funny, when I got into the teaching side of things and started basically teaching teachers and kind of moving up, I could have let go of those one-on-one sessions because that was enough and plenty to keep me busy and focused on. But I still love the one-on-one connections. And so I still offer traditional seership sessions in terms of future probabilities, past life viewing, channeling guidance from spirit on decisions you're trying to make, connecting in terms of mediumship with your past ancestors or loved ones, and also our sacred, really shamanic rituals. I also still perform those with clients in terms of soul retrievals and deep traumatic clearings through shamanic healing, medical intuition. There's still a lot that I offer. So I still love those times. And if you are drawn to having that one-on-one time with me, check it out on the website. It's always available there. My calendar's on there, my online calendar, and you can pop in and schedule it. It's very easy. And then any of you guys that haven't checked out the modules of my teaching curriculum, I always encourage you to do so. There's so much available there, and the modules range in price. Some of them are like $45, and then some of them range up to $150, depending on the technique and intensity and how long those video instruction modules and how many worksheets go with them. But there's a range there, and I hope that you can find something that really inspires you somewhere along the path. And then those of you that are further along, that already have developed your skill, I have the spiritual entrepreneur class, and that has been so transformative to watch people become colleagues. I totally love that. I just love seeing people have success at being themselves. It's like, that's essentially what I'm trying to teach in the masterclass, because your intuition is so much of who you are, your healing abilities, the things that are already in you. And it's just like, I'm just showing you a mirror of who you are and then squeezing out the good stuff, giving you a little structure and techniques to hone it and make it something that is steady and that you can be confident to show up in and to trust that it's going to be there for you all the time in terms of your abilities. But really it's just giving you that bridge of being able to be who you are and thrive in that way if you need it. Some people don't need it. But anyways, that's always available, and I always want to encourage you guys to go there and check it out if your heart is kind of like getting that intuitive nudge to do it. That's your cue. The last thing I want to say is that those of you that were here with us on YouTube last Friday, yay! That was so fun. I loved it. I was playing around with all the different little tabs and new things. I put somebody in the timeout. I kept visualizing like a little dunce hat, in the corner, like, you go into timeout. It was so funny. YouTube has a lot of cool live stream, little actions that they add on there. So we're going to be doing the YouTube live streams the first Friday of every month at noon on our lunch hour. So set it on your calendar and be with us next month for the Friday afternoon live streams, first Friday of the month. Okay, that's all my business. Let's get into the question this week. It says, "Hi Rachel, I have had several readings from you and taken your first 10 modules. I am loving it and continuing to develop. My question is actually about readings and the readings I do for others. I am predominantly clairsentient, but would like to get a way to have more specific readings. I feel like my readings are sometimes vague, but when I was sitting with you, you had much more specifics. How could you advise me to get very specific in my readings?" Okay. Good question. And I will tell you, yay you for doing the first 10 modules, but I definitely teach this further on down the line. I don't know which module it is off the top of my head, but I do teach the skills of refining your readings cumulatively as we go along. So, but there are a couple techniques I can give you. I like that you identified that you're predominantly clairsentient. And for those of you guys that don't know, there are 6 identified psychic senses, right? Clairsentience, the one that she mentioned, is one that is the feeling of non-physical energy. Then we have claircognizance, which is the knowing, like I just know, I just pick up on things and know. I don't know why I know, but I know it. Clairvoyance, which is the imagery, the vision, the seeing. Clairaudience, which is the hearing, right? Or hearing spirit and the dialogue. And then there's clairgustant, which is the taste. This is not as common, or a lot of times it's secondary to the other psychic senses, but it's the sensation of taste and getting something in the mouth, or reactionary from a psychic engagement or a non-physical interaction. And then the last one is clairsentrist, scent, like I smell. So it's the olfactics. So these psychic senses are what I teach as the traditional 6 psychic senses. And typically, and I always use the word typically, I have to be loose with my language here, because when you teach the sacred intuitive arts, you always have to give room for your own intuition, your own experience. As a teacher of intuition, I cannot say, like if someone comes to me and says, well, my intuition says I have all of these and they're all my predominant psychic senses, then I would validate that. You cannot break someone's connection with their intuition by trying to teach them intuition. So when I use things and I say to you, typically this is the way it shows up. If you are not the typical one, that's okay. It doesn't mean you're wrong. Instead, it means that your intuition, or the way it shows up for you, is correct. We have to retrain our thought and our process of education when it comes to the intuitive arts. It's a very different way of learning. This is why I say it's like relearning, or seeing what's already inside of you and just remembering how to use those gifts. So all that being said, typically you have a predominant psychic sense that is more dominant, that comes out kind of to the forefront, and all the others almost are supplementary and they support it. So for me, my dominant psychic sense is clairvoyance. I see first. I always see in pictures. I see imagery. If you're talking to me, I'm seeing it in my head. Yeah, I'm seeing everything you're talking about. If someone's asking me a date, I'm literally seeing like a TikTok little image. When I say TikTok, I shouldn't have said it, like ticker tape, right? That used to like run on the bottom of the screens. Y'all remember those? More like that, of like the date, or I'm seeing a calendar. It's like you cannot talk to me without my clairvoyance showing me something. That is my predominant psychic sense. And then I have all of the others that are available to me, but to me they feel supplementary. So that is an important skill of just learning you. And I'm glad that you identified that you said, I'm predominantly clairsentient. To me, I'm like, yes, you've taken the first 10 modules. So you know that about yourself, because essentially what happens is we use that to refine and strengthen your abilities. It's like, that's your superpower. Now let's really get some structure and some confidence and some regulated practices and techniques to develop that muscle and give you a sense of really just confidence that every time you go in, you know what to do, you know how to navigate the realms, and you know what you're getting and how to get more specific information or not, because you know how the messages are going to come in. They're going to come in through feelings, through sensation, right? So like I said, I'm going to give you a few of these and then kind of tell you that you need to feel into the way that it works for you. Make it your own, okay? Don't make it just my technique. Make it your own that feels more real to you. So you may trash some of what I say, and you may love and glean from some of what I say. Pay attention to that, because that is your intuitive awareness saying, this is the way that I should go. This is what I should do, right? Okay, so the first way that I will tell you to get more specifics is to refine your questions, because it's always an energetic equivalent on the side that we ask the questions from the human perspective to the side that non-physical energy answers us. They must match up in energetic equivalency. Just think of it like an equation, right? They have to balance on both sides, not an inequality. That's my 8th grade math right there from my son. But anyways, they have to be a balanced equation. And so when you refine your question, you get more specific with your question. And I help my clients with this all the time. If they come to me and they say, just read me, they want a blind reading, or they say, I want to know about love and job and family and health. I'm like, well, what do you want to know about it? Because I could tell you a million things, and Spirit will just answer you in those same broad ways you just asked the question. They'll say, love is coming. Health is good. You know, they'll just be very broad because you asked it energetically in an equation that's very open and broad. And so the energy will come back as a match to your question, very open and broad. So the easiest way to get more specific readings is to ask more specific questions. And so sometimes this comes as probing your client. That sounds horrible. Like trying to dig in and get more inquisitive about your questions. So you say to them, okay, you want to know about love life. Is there a particular person you want me to tune into? Is there, maybe you don't have a relationship. Do you want to know when a relationship is coming? Do you want to know what characteristics can I work on now in order to be ready for this person? Do you want to know what this person is like? Do you want to know, will I ever meet someone and get married? Essentially, help refine it and chisel it down enough to where you feel like they will be satisfied with that answer, because that's really what they want to know. What do you really want to know? And oftentimes that's my first question when people come here, like, why are you here? What brought you here? What questions do you have that you feel like Spirit can answer, or that no one else has been able to answer? And you're like, please help me with such and such, with this. And so get more specific with your questions. My next piece of advice for getting more specific aspects to your readings is to, if you are looking at future probabilities or past lives, get specific with your timelines. So give essentially what I like to call in my modules in my teaching, like a GPS coordinate of where you want to go. Okay? Then Spirit has a very direct correlation or tangent, like it can send the energy there very quickly versus just saying, I want to know about my future. Okay, well, that is so broad. It's like someone sitting down and saying, tell me about yourself. It's like, I could tell you, what do you want to know? I could tell you a million things about me. And same about, like, tell me about your past. I want to know about my past. It's like, well, there's a lot. I mean, there's so much history there. How far back do you want to go? The same is true with the future. If people say, I want to know about my career in the future. Well, where do you want to look? You want to look 1 year out? You want to look 5 years out? You want to look 10 years? What timelines are relevant for you? Okay, that will give you more specificity because you have gotten more directional with where you want to go. You've told Spirit that. If you want very precise readings, if they have a specific date of a meeting that they're going to court to decide of some matter, then look at that particular date. If they, and set that date like a coordinate. I always see the visual of that flux capacitor in Back to the Future. I'm not even lying, y'all. I see that picture and it like puts the date in there, the day, the month, and the year. And a lot of times I will do that. Like, what day? You want to look 1 year out? You want to see a time capsule of a whole year? Do you want to look 1 year from now? How much have I changed? Or where is the relationship after this long? Or how is my career and how does my boss view me after 1 year in there? Or is there particular dates again that are specific to you? Get specific with directing your timelines to ones that are relevant to you. You can do that backwards also. I want to see 2 lifetimes from now. But again, even 2 lifetimes from now, you've got a whole lifetime you could talk about. Do you want to move into what was the most important aspect of that life? What was my biggest takeaway, or what aspects of that past life are now affecting me still, or having the biggest impact in me still. I want to see that event. Like, because otherwise you're directing yourself to something vague. Does that make sense? You have control over that, but you need to set the sail. You need to put the GPS dial there. You need to give navigational flow to where you want spirit to go, what you want your visionary to open within upon. Okay, and then the last thing is what I would call like zooming in or zooming out. You can easily do this with your clairsentience, okay? Because remember, clairsentience is feeling. So you may feel into something that's going on in the body. Let's take medical intuition, for example, and you want something more specific. I feel that they're having issues with their chest. I can feel it because my own body is kind of giving me that mimicry, and I can feel the same sensations. So you notice that it's in this general area. You would use very clearly like a directional of your spirit, as if telling your consciousness, I want to zoom into the chest in the areas that are causing pain, inflammation, disease within the body. So you zoom in, and essentially it's similar to the way that a camera lens would zoom in or pan out, and you move tighter into a particular area, maybe the lungs, and you specify, I want to go into the lungs. Then you would feel into the lungs. What do the lungs feel like when you're there? Again, I'm using the feeling example because you said that you're predominantly clairsentient, but this is how you would zoom in and get more clarity. Then you would go to each organ, right? Then you could even zoom in to the lining, like say for instance, the lungs felt like they were lined with something soggy, or there was some sort of bacteria, or there was something in there. Then you could zoom into the bacteria, or you could zoom into the lining of the lungs, or you could zoom into a particular red blood cell, and then from there feel it out. What does this feel like to you? Do I feel like I'm not getting enough air in there? It doesn't have enough oxygen. I can't breathe from inside there. Do you feel like you're labored and you're tired and you're not getting revived? You can still get specifics to the feeling tone of what you're feeling. The same is true of using your clairsentience for extreme precision with empathic abilities. So if you are looking at a relationship and someone's asking you for a reading on that, you can zoom in to a particular individual that they're asking about, or zoom into their own heart and tell them the feelings from there. Even from there you can, and then expressing like everything that you're feeling from inside the heart. Then you can move into the mind. Let me tell you what the mind is feeling. I'm feeling hesitant because of this. Say you feel like there's a fear, okay? And you're like, okay, I get fear and anxiety. That's all coming up in the sensations that I'm picking up on empathically. All right, well then zoom into that fear. What is that fear? Ask the question, what is this fear in particular? Let's zoom in there. And then you're like, okay, I'm getting that. I feel like this fear has to do with abandonment. And because I'm like scared you're gonna leave me, and I have this sensation emotionally of like being alone. And so again, you're still using your clairsentience and that emotional tone that is your specific skill set, but you're zooming in tighter and tighter and tighter. Part of that is the question asking that I talked about earlier, and refining your questions. And part of it is when you get an answer that you zoom in tighter to part of that answer. If you see a lung, zoom into a lung. Get something in there. If you see a relationship or a fear, zoom into that fear. If you see that core issue, then ask the question of where does this come from, or how can this be healed, or how can I help with this? You keep zooming tighter and tighter to get more and more specific answers. I hope that is helpful to you. I can go on and on about this, but I'm going to cut it there, and I will be back here with you guys next week for another one of these YouTube videos. Blessings.